recording. Peter, do you want to give the intro? So I'm.
Yes, I'll do my
As
part. So
usual.
today's the 30th of October 2020, and we're doing the public discussion session by TVP Support. Pageman.
Right, thank you. So first off, oh, this was the wrong PowerPoint. I'm not going to do a PowerPoint presentation. I used to do those, but I'm just going to go through a few. Oh, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give my introduction first, and then I'm going to do the some rules and so on. So Emma, if you feel like you have done the introduction many times, well, I have done them many more times, my same intro. So bear with me. So I started 10 years ago with the Zeitgeist movies. And as I explained to Caden, I didn't connect with the Venus project. I couldn't put it together, what this person was saying. But somehow it began for me. And then I couldn't stop. I was enjoying it too much, and it became, let's call it what it is, an addiction to listening to this material. So after 4 or 5 years, I went to, in Venus, Florida, and met Jacque and Roxanne. But I had a personal agenda when I was there. I wasn't there I enjoyed seeing them, but I wanted more information because I had bought everything they sold and I watched everything they had. And I knew that they had more material. So I told them that I would transcribe for them if they would give me, material that hasn't been released. And I did that for 3 years. It was my hobby. Every time I had free time, that was what I was doing. And that gave me the opportunity to listen to many, 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 many more lectures. So the difference between me, the way I view myself, is that I'm just a person that has had access to much more information, and I put a lot of time in it. If you take me to another field, I don't know anything, But in this, I feel that I've spent so much time on it, so I'm very comfortable. And I've been doing these kinds of meetings, for example, with Emma. We met in Stockholm, and I've been doing those for 8 years. Every maybe month or 2 months, I had sessions. So I got very used to talking about this subject. But still, I'm still improving my answers. I don't feel that I'm close to being comfortable with every question that is presented to me. So I'm still learning. So that's about it. And I work right now for a university. Yeah, that's about it. And I have a wife and 2 kids. So a little bit about me. So let me share this PowerPoint. This is just to go through some rules that we have for these sessions. So first off, a disclaimer. At this time, I'm going through a course. So when that is finished, then I can say I represent the Venus project. I have been taught, they have control, they have checked that, I have let's say, enough information to represent it. But I'm not there yet. So you have to take everything I say with a grain of salt. I will be finished maybe in 1 year from now. It's been going on for like 2 years. So I'm not there yet. So we don't, I ask people not to promote other organizations at these sessions because it takes a lot of time. And we do this every 2 weeks. So let's talk about the Venus project here. And we don't talk about conspiracy theories. So let's skip that. And if you feel, for example, Caden, that you want to participate more, we can talk about that. I can contact you with Peter or somebody else that can assist you, what the next step is.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so we can take that afterwards if you would like that.
Sure.
And this place, just like this lecture that you listen to, it's not, my role is not to debate or convince you. I'm here to assist you, to help you even if something is clear, you can ask me, how do you view it? And I can give you a different answer than the ones that you heard to help you connect the idea. And what happens with people that listen to the material, which also happened to me when I met Jacque Fresco, was that I had listened to him for 4 or 5 years, but my questions to him, even though I have listened to them, I wasn't clear on what they meant. It takes time if you don't have his background, for example, the scientific method, to really understand, how is that applied everywhere? And that was one of the questions I asked him, how can you know that that is correct, this approach? It wasn't clear to me, even though I listened to him for many years. So now today it's more clear, and I have, by challenging myself to help others understand it, I have learned more. So I'm here to assist you in the best way I can. So I used to have presentations, but those take a lot of time, and I don't have those time. I don't have time for creating, a unique presentation every 2 weeks. So what we do on these sessions is that we have listened to something, hopefully all of us. It's not a must, but if we have, it's great. But it is open to ask, questions about whatever. And please remind me that 1.5 hours from now, it's time to wrap it up. Because, sometimes we just go, 3 hours, going to 4, it's time to stop. So I want to stop 1.5 hours from now. So please remind me if I continue to babble. So it's open now for any questions, anything you want to bring up, or something you read, or something you want to discuss, or whatever. So don't be shy, guys. Don't be shy. I know there's something always, and then we start, and then we're in 4 hours.
Are we asking specifically about the seminar or in general?
No, whatever you want, whatever you feel you want clarification on, and we take it from there.
I have a couple things, but I don't want to go. I can always
go.
email around.
No, go. Give us all of them. We enjoy hearing those questions because it gives us an opportunity to think, oh, how would I answer that? Those questions help us grow. So we really enjoy hearing those thoughts you have. Please.
To start, I guess I'll ask about the forum. There's an online forum. How's that going? It seems kind of like are people working on it? I see the last post was done in 2016. And what is it specifically for? Is it just for?
Is that the TVP Support forum you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was created, that long ago. With TVP Support, we're looking at trying to have a better communication process, put it that way, and passing out whether we mainly use Skype and Facebook for TVP Support and that forum in place. So we haven't really worked on it for a long time because at the moment we're looking at other platforms like Modern. So we're looking at Twist and maybe Discord, I think it is. So it is one of the platforms that we may go over to, but it hasn't been used for a fair while, that one. So it's a bit inactive. There is a public Skype group that you'd probably get better responses from, or I just recommend the TVP Support International group. That one's definitely active.
Okay.
If you want to ask any questions, we can share you the links after. But once we work out what platform we want to use, we'll let everyone know. But it's just about honing what PSCs need, I suppose, or regional coordinators require as well, and what people have access to, because we've got obviously people from all over the world, and people have different, obviously, requirements of internet access speeds and stuff like that. So it's ongoing.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
I've heard many people swear by Discord. in terms of performance, if that's any influence.
Yeah, we've had with a breakdown of each platform and the pluses and pros and cons to each. We had like a subscription with Twist, but not only with Twist. So I think it's something that we have to. I was actually just talking to another regional coordinator this morning about it. So yeah,
Discord is completely free, so you don't have to pay for anything.
Cool. Do you want to go to the next question, or?
Yeah.
Unless anyone else has something to say.
I just want to read this that Clifton wrote. Is it true that the Venus project is just up front for the New World Order? Yes, it is true. I'm so happy you brought it up.
I knew it.
Oh shit, we're recording.
I know.
Can you expand that, please?
That's pretty good.
Why did you bring that up, Clifton? We were supposed to keep it a secret.
Well, please expand that.
Please expand.
That's just what I heard, and I just want to make sure,
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Have
you gotten that question before by people?
No, I've definitely seen it on social media though, like on Facebook, like in our discussion groups. I've seen stuff like that, and just a few weeks ago I saw that actually. But if you look at the New World Order, it is a conspiracy theory, but surprisingly, a lot of people have ideas that there is this underground cabal that's trying to form a one world government. And since the Venus Project envisions world unity, bringing all nations together, people with who are critically thinking challenged associate those things, and they think that Jacque, Fresco, and Roxanne are just, these underground agents or something. Or
how do you respond to it if someone does say that? If someone were to say that to you, what would you say?
You don't respond. You first have empathy with them. You ask why, for example, are you afraid of such kind of system?
Yeah. I would ask, what do you mean by New World Order? And make them get specific about it.
Yep.
And that's one technique that Jacque used to use a lot, which is to say, what do you mean by that? And try to get specific, because language is open to interpretation, right? So the less ambiguity we have and the more detailed you can get them to say it, then you can deal with an actual issue or an actual topic, not just this grandiose statement.
Right.
New World Order. That could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So get them to say something specific, and then start drilling down into the facts around that topic. And soon you'll see that almost always these ideas dissipate and don't really have any ground to stand on. Almost always.
What is really useful is if you empathize with that kind of people, naming those fears, and a governing elite, So when you got that kind of communication, that kind of empathy, you can explain.
Yeah.
I was watching.
Sorry.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, just quickly, the issue I find is a lot of people like to project their interpretations and their own understandings onto most things. And it's not just TVP, we see it in most of our life that people project what they think something could be. And I think Fresco talks about, everyone's view that they have a right to their opinion. Well, not really. If you don't have a reference to back it up, I could say all kinds of things. It doesn't mean it make it true. And I think that's what people aren't used to, that they're used in a society to giving their opinion and projection based on what they know or don't know. And it's difficult sometimes to communicate that across to them in a way that's not, doesn't get them off put that way. But it's
But
what
if
the
you're
director said is official.
if you're talking about engineer or chemistry, people tend not to do that because they understand that you have to understand the area before talking. But in this case, there is politics in between, the noise of politics, the attitude of politics, that everyone have the right to their own opinion.
Mm. We find communism obviously is a common one too. Everyone brings it up. It's communist. It's communism. But I try and approach it like Cliff sort of says. That you find out what their definition of communism is, and in reality try and work it out. I think Pageman said in a few discussions ago that was it you or Fresco said that we've never actually seen proper communism in the world, true communism, so to speak.
I think I heard that.
Technically, I think you're right, but the implementations that they've tried have turned out quite to the detriment to the population. But I think what Jacque is saying is that you should implement a method of thinking or a method of communicating as well. I mean, he touches on every single facet of our socioeconomic structure, including our language, our culture, the way the brain works, behavioral science, science, technology, engineering, all that has to be better in order for us to actually be civilized enough to survive ourselves. And I think that's the fundamental message that I took home quite early watching these videos and listening to these recordings of him. I mean, but he's extremely entertaining to listen to as well, the old man Jacque. I mean, because he does not hold back. I mean, he tells you what he thinks.
Well, I can say about that I have received a few smack on the face when I hear Jacque, and I really, at the end, I feel much better after that smack, because I relate most of the time with his experiences similar to what I have lived in my own life. And I ask inside myself most of it, how can this guy got to this? It's like most of the things I have lived, he lived it, he experienced it, but he went beyond, he create, let's say, a solution. And that's what got me, it's really, really interesting. And I fully agree when you say that it's entertaining. It is really.
Another thing, just going back for a minute to the topic of everyone has a right to their opinion. Jacque used to talk a lot about that, and how people, they say that, but I think the more relevant thing about that is that it's not that people don't have a right to their opinion, he's saying. I think the more overarching idea is that people can say what they want, but people should also be critically thinking enough, or have the critical thinking skills to know whose opinion matters and whose opinion does not. Then, yeah, people have a right to their opinion, but you also have a right to ignore them or to actually pay attention. And that's based on whether or not they have the credibility with the better phrase is, I guess, the competency to talk about that. If they're not competent, then you don't need to listen to them. But they could say,
this is such a good example of how we struggle with our own language and how incomplete it is, or how imprecise it is. Because as soon as you use a phrase like a right to something, that almost implies some kind of legality of some sort. And I think what he was saying, really what he meant, I mean, this is what you're supposed to do, is try to figure out what people really mean, is he's not going to let you get away with some opinion. If you're talking to him, and you say that airplanes can't fly, he'll be like, I beg to differ. Look at that. You know, he'll say, I don't agree with you. And I think it's important that we all do that and are willing to back up our arguments. Because I think that fundamentally that's how you drive change and change opinions over time.
And that goes directly to the concept of applying the methods of science directly to the social system. That's why, because then that gets rid of opinions and bias and conflicts of interest that plague society today. Most of our problems can be narrowed down to not following scientific thinking when we decide on what we're doing in a society. Because if we did that, then we would arrive at decisions, like he says. We would not make decisions. We would not appoint somebody like a leader to make the decision, because that's full of all kinds of problems, all kinds of bias. So if you directly apply the methods of science to your decision making, everybody is aware of the process of how you arrive there, and there's no argument. You can't argue with it because it's scientific. So,
well, scientists argue plenty, but they have a method for doing it, right?
Right.
Yeah, they have a way to hash it out, and then when one of them is proven wrong, they have to concede and say, okay, I was wrong. Now we know more, and then you refine the facts, and that's how you get closer to the truth. You never achieve actual truth, but you get rid of the false ideas and the false concepts.
Well, at least what doesn't fit going forward, or what doesn't work, right? And that's why it's an emergent system. It keeps evolving, right?
Yeah.
I do love that Jacque never said that it was like perfect, like a utopia. I do love that about it, because that's realistic, you know?
It's emergent. Yeah. It's constantly evolving. I even had a guy on some guy on a, not a TVP, but a TZM chat. He was like, no, I don't believe in his ideas. Look, or those cities, they're ugly. Why would you build a house around? I was trying to explain to him. I was like, really? That's what you hang up on? I mean, come on. He's just projecting. Here's one plausible thing that you might arrive at this for these reasons. But since nobody's built it yet, you don't know what it's going to actually look like.
Right, exactly.
And he himself says that people in the future will design their own cities and their own architecture. He doesn't advocate people following him. He doesn't want to be made into a martyr. He's just saying, this is how I see it based on the facts that I know, and the most practical way of using resources and making it as efficient as possible. This is what I envision. Now let's move in this direction and see what else evolves. And every generation will refine it and make it their own and improve on it until problems become so small that we no longer have poverty and things like that. We're thinking more about much, much higher problems in science.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is really good for us to come together and talk like this and kind of flesh these things out. I saw somebody post a question there a little bit about a TVP ambassador. My interpretation of that is that, you know, that's kind of what the point of contacts are. To just, those are the people you talk to if you want to know more officially, right? But I think it's incumbent upon all of us who kind of want to see a future like that to start talking to people about it. Because I think you need a certain amount of awareness in society when this around us is crumbling. I know some people feel it's crumbling right now, but as long as it works adequately well, change is not going to happen. But you know, enough people need to know about it by the time we need to actually take action and start building.
Yes. Education. in regards to what's applied in the scientific method in large population, you need access to information, also very important, and also the knowledge to understand that data and transform it into knowledge.
Yeah.
David, what were you thinking about TVP diplomat? What were you thinking regarding that?
Okay, let me expand a little bit about it. It was just an idea that I have from 1-2 years ago. Of course, that's not for now, but the idea is the following. Once TVP has more projection and more people, more enthusiasts, it's create, let's say, within this system that TVP exists, create an elite team of TVP diplomats that the mission of them will be to coordinate or meet with very important personalities like scientists, sportmen, businessmen, presidents, why not? Ministers, prime minister, all of this within this system, very important personalities. But this TVP diplomat will have very special techniques of communication, okay? They have to have very, very deep knowledge about TVP vision and mission. And they will be, let's say, some kind of diplomat because they are going to treat or going to discuss, talk to these very important people, okay? That's going to be their mission. I don't mean by that they cannot talk to anybody else. They can, absolutely. But their mission or their training will be exclusively or preferred to talk to these very important people. So I think that in that way, maybe we can speed things up in a way that maybe we can invite a very important millionaire or billionaire to invest in the city, or maybe a president can give TVP a portion of land. Here, this is for you. Please construct the first city, for an example, you know? I think this could be a way to speed things up. I don't know. What is your opinion about it?
I mean, I think it's important for media to get a hold of it. I mean, after the seminar that I listened to with Jacque, he was talking about once it gets into the eyes of the people, like it's pretty fast paced. So I think talking to a lot of personalities, like you were saying, David, would help with that. Just get us into the eyes of more people, just all across.
It's kind of hard to understand fully, though. I think it's been. I mean, there are millions of views on YouTube if you look at the videos. How many click-throughs there are? He was on Larry King. He's received how do you call it? Accommodation, some kind of reward from the United Nations. So I mean, there is some level of awareness out there, but I think that not everybody truly understands what it means.
Right.
I mean, you have some kind of idea of, yeah, okay, apply science to social concerns, stop using money, you know, build, engineer cities from the ground up to actually serve. You know, that's not really, doesn't sound radical to anyone, except when you get to the money part, right? Then that's full stop. Nope, no more. We're not going to discuss that.
For some reason.
For some reason, yep.
I think
No, please continue.
I was just thinking too, like, if we can help more people understand, how would we go about making more people understand it to a point where they will be willing to donate or invest or be a part of this?
Direct them to payment.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing about Diplomat, the things that you mentioned, David, that's the course I'm going to educate me, so I have a fundamental to be able to speak to people. And we also go through, how to argue. We're going through those things because it won't be, if you are given that opportunity, they won't ever say, here you are, present it for 2 hours. They will have people that argue with you. They say, what about this? What about that? This is communism, whatever, because that's the type of world we live in. So, but regarding how we get more people, it has to do, for example, with you, Keda. For example, if I would have come to you 5 years ago, as you mentioned, you were busy at that time.
Right.
So it wasn't an appropriate time for you. For some reason, today you're here. So some things lined up for you to come to this session. And the world is the same. If we can try to get people in, for example, with this, we can try to contact them, but at the same time we say, maybe it's not the right time for them. There isn't enough things happening that they're looking for something new. If I'm a successful businessman and everything is going great, why should I go here? I'm getting this much over here, and you're just giving me some nice ideas. There is no connection. There is no need. But there is a difference. If you look at Jacque, he talked for 50 years and there were very few people. Then 2008, there was a crash, and then a lot of people, got this information. Then it went down again. And, now society is going, it's having their problems, and then you're going to get more people in. And if things go back to normal, then they exit, because life is more reinforcing. If society takes care of you, that is more reinforcing to most people than these ideas. This is just yeah, please.
I was just thinking too, like when I first looked into it, I didn't see myself as an engineer or a software, anything like that. So I was like, how can I help with this? I can't be in this. You know what I mean? So I kind of backed away from it. That was my thing, but I totally agree with you. Like people are like, they look at it, they're like, that's cool. And then they move on like, okay, well, go play some sports or whatever, like they do. So I get that. Yeah.
So we call it the march of events. It's when society starts breaking down, not because we go around with protest signs, but the economic system by itself starts to break down. And when it doesn't function, that is when people start looking for something new. For example, in the US with Bernie Sanders, it was taboo for him to talk about socialism, but now suddenly it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. It's not because he became more charismatic or something happened to him. It was that society started to have problems, and then people open up to new ideas. But they have to go through, they can't jump in the same manner as we jump. We say, skip socialism, we're going over it. But society doesn't operate that way. They're going to try whatever they can to keep it as it is for the people that it benefits. So we have that slow. Okay, I have some people writing things. Emma, do you want to, can you tell us what you have written there?
Oh yeah, I was kind of slow writing, but I wrote that when you were talking about houses and buildings. So I was just thinking, when people complain about the houses being round and stuff, that he says that, well, people would always be free to complain and or like come with arguments as to why things should be different and such.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I remember I was holding a lecture for a very rich group, a lot of successful people, and they work with polio. I forgot the name of the organization. Does anybody remember the name? They want to eradicate polio. Oh, but I was holding this session for them. At the end of the session, one of them came up to me. He said, "Nice presentation, but I wouldn't want to live in those round cities." And I understand this person because he doesn't see a connection. To him, it's just architecture. But to me, if he understood what that meant to me, it means the end of war. It means the end of poverty. It's the end of, you know, your house crushing down on you when there's an earthquake. It means 1,000,005 things to me, but to him, it's just a house that doesn't look in the way he thinks of a house. So with that person, I need a lot of time to take him there. But that is not, you know, when he said that to me, it wasn't a question of educate me. It was a statement. So I say, I understand that you wouldn't want to live there and you don't have to live there, because he wasn't asking a question. So you have those problems with all areas when you're talking about the Venus project. There are no simple roads because everybody has their own connections to the things you're talking about, and they are usually the opposite of what they're used to. For example, with the New World Order that you were mentioning, Clifton, all of those things, many of the things I've heard, are the things that we are proposing, but they have been educated to view them as negative, as one world is negative to them. To have it centralized is negative. That's the way they have been brought up. So when a person would ask me that kind of question, I need to know, are they seeking information or are they just making a statement? Then I don't discuss it with them. So I'm looking for that. You know, do you want to discuss it? I can give you a new way of looking at it, but I need time.
Yeah. I would also add that with the housing example that Emma was mentioning, if someone says that they don't want to live in that kind of a city or a round house, you got to realize that they're just projecting their own experience of what a house is into this concept, and because it's so different, they don't like it. And I would be willing to bet that if they had grown up in a world with these kinds of houses, with domes and round shapes that are stronger and better in all these different ways, and then you showed them a square house, they'd be like, I don't like that. I don't want to live in one of those square houses. That doesn't look safe to me, you know? And they would be right, but that's their projection. And it's people, like Jacque said, people project like hell.
It's just crazy that people like just focus on that one aspect of it too, though. That's what is interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's so visual that's the most they can grasp. You know, if they want to reach a conclusion, say, I don't like that. Or they might say, you know, it's too, what happens to individuality? You know, they're so, you know, uniform. And I always think of, you know, where you put in your electricity in the house, you know, it's almost the same shape. And you would go to them and say, why aren't you unique? Why don't you have this, you know, in a different way? They don't think about that because they have not been brought up to think about that as something that needs to be different. But other aspects of their life, they feel this has to be different. And that is the same. They have been brought up to feel that here I have to be an individual, but whatever lamp is in my house, that I don't care about. That can be whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people seem to be cherry pick this idea of being different or being the same. Like if you look at the average person today, nobody thinks twice about people who act so similar. People like the same songs. You see them dressed in the same clothes. they talk the same way, and nobody even thinks about that as not being an individual. But people today are very much the same in a lot of ways, and it's kind of invisible to most people. But in a resource-based economy, people would have the freedom to do whatever they want, and they wouldn't be held down in where they live or what they do for a living or what hobbies they pursue or what job they want to do. It would open up so many different things to them that they would be probably 10 times more individual in that kind of a world than what we have today.
Can I just ask the new person that has joined us, can you say something? Are you there?
Oh, that's my PC.
Oh, it is. Okay. I was like, who's this?
I was just because I wanted to be able to see the chat at the same time.
Okay. But then you wrote this. There's a Minecraft world. You wrote, there's a Minecraft world that represents a version of TVP. So I was like, this must be a troll.
This must be.
But apparently not.
No,
it's your
actually is. If you look for it on Minecraft downloads, you can actually find somebody built a city.
I did see that on Reddit. I was really impressed by it. It was beautiful.
Is that available only on PC, Stefan? Because I tried it on my Apple device and I couldn't. It didn't work. The link to the world.
Minecraft?
No,
it's. I've only tried running it on my little Minecraft server here at home, which is a virtual machine.
It didn't work on Apple. I tried it on Apple, unfortunately, or iOS and Android. I tried it on the Samsung. Sorry.
I'm an avid open source evangelist as well, for obvious reasons. I mean, there are many analogies in that software ecosystem to TVP.
Okay. So a lot of people have written things. Is there anybody that has written something they want to bring up? Peter, you've written a lot. Do you want to say something about?
I think we're just talking about the ECP in regards to David's response about having the diplomat, and which is the socio-engineering education project, or the course that you're completing at the moment that Theo runs. Is the idea, from what I understand, is to create more advocates, public advocates, to be able to speak on behalf of TVP, and then further the learning through other people. That was basically what I was talking about. And then David mentioned about a ball game, and I was just saying the ball game has been brought up before in the global teams and a game, like a video game, but it's just the lack of volunteers to be able to fulfill them. As I said, that they're focusing on the transcription side at the moment to have that knowledge kept, so to speak, rather than losing it. And then once that's done, that's when they'll move on to the next project, so to speak. I don't know, Alex, you also had something that you want to mention?
Alex, did you?
Alex.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were talking to me. I was speaking with my girlfriend.
Did you?
Not allowed to do that, mate. You know that.
Huh?
Did you write something that in the chat?
I wrote one interview with Jacque and Roxanne. It was someone asked Jacque, okay, I will give you millions of dollars to build a city. And he said, no, I would use this money to make movies and to educate people. Because if we build a city and people with the same way of thinking will come to this city, it wouldn't be the city which we want to build. So it would be the same people with the same problems in the new city. So that's it. I don't know if you guys. Yeah?
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I finished.
Oh, are they working on another script? I was reading up on the transmedia, and they're like still looking for a screenwriter and stuff like that to kind of make it more like a movie instead of just a documentary.
Yeah, and we were thinking to make a movie about life in resource-based economy, something like that. If you remember, guys, Pejman Peter, do you remember about this?
Yeah, I think if you watch the latest interview with Roxanne and Nate from the Russian-speaking team, that one, there's a question there where they answer about their transmedia projects they want to do. So it may not be specifically a movie. I think they're talking about different kind of mediums as well. But yeah, I'll find that link and put it in the chat in a second. It's the latest interview where they answer all of those questions. Yeah, as I said in the chat, you know, that there's been talk about a video game as well, but it's just, yeah, the lack of, you know, people, you know, generally most of us are volunteers, so we work around life and everything else, whereas it's only really Roxanne and Nate and really that are full-time in Venus that are able to spend all their time progressing things, so to speak. So with the volunteers that work around life, so to speak, it does slow down the process more than what we'd like.
And our screenshot I just sent you guys, this is a movie I've been watching just now. It's Journey Second, The Mysteries Island from Netflix with rock artist, you know, rock with big guy. So we've been looking for this Atlantis city, and this is the screenshot how Atlantis city from this movie looks like. This looks like a circular city, which,
you know, that's how Plato described it, actually.
Yeah.
How did he describe it?
He described the city as looking like the picture.
So in the chat, I sent the screenshot.
Yeah, I saw it. Thank you for that. Fabrizio. Was there anything particular with that? Fabrizio sent a link for the major motion picture and how it's going. So you can look at that afterwards if you want, guys.
It is very interesting because it's analyzed the progress of this and how mistakes were made and how to arrange those mistakes or fix those mistakes.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Nate about that. And what they've decided on doing is making it into a TV series rather than just a 2 or 3 hour film. They're working on an ongoing story that follows along the same lines, but is a multi-episode series, so they could cover so many topics. Because doing one movie it's only going to cover like 3 or 5% probably of what all this stuff covers. So it makes a lot more sense to have an ongoing series. And he's right now the primary writer for that, Nathaniel Dinwiddie, the archivist. And Roxanne has said that they hired some people to write a script for a movie, but they just didn't like the results.
Right.
And people projected their own ideas into it, and they didn't have a lot of familiarity with TVP. So he's kind of taken over that role, but he has a lot to do. And it's probably going to be a little while.
I mean, I think it's just important to just make it, like humanize it. Like if you show, I like that they're doing a series then, because it's like you could show the life of what it would be like and say, this could be our lives. I think that's because that, like, media changes the minds of so many people. It's so powerful.
Yeah, that is what he's doing too. There's going to be main characters in the films or in the series that are going to be people that you can relate to, and it's going to have a very human quality to it. So,
well, I shared in the link Peter's, what do I call him? Zeitgeist Peter's latest film. And that's kind of talks about being in the future, looking back on this world, describing it with those eyes to kind of help you understand. And I understood this was what both projects were going to do eventually. I think it's a better idea with a TV series.
Yeah. Have you seen that
This
movie?
is because this is just maybe.
I watched it last weekend with my partner, and I found it very difficult.
What movie? The one on Netflix?
The new Zeitgeist one.
Oh.
I'm just about to post the new interview one that I spoke about earlier. But yeah, did you watch it, Steph? Yeah. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I did watch it. It was a bit ranty. it was a bit long.
Yeah, it was very artistic. So
yeah,
the artistic impression was outweighed the message, so to speak. And for my partner to sit there a few times and mention to me, like, we had to do 2 days. We fell asleep at one, and we wanted to speed it up. And she said after that, she mentioned to me that she could see where Jacque and PJ may have fallen out, just the different in that techniques, just there alone. Because I found it difficult.
Yeah, it's very artsy fartsy. So it. Many people, I suppose, will look at it and go, "Well, dude, get to the point. What do you want to say?" So either make it a story with people and something's happening and get some action in it, or you, yeah. So for me, it was a bit slow. Say they focused too much on the look and feel of certain things on the music and. But that might work for some people. I think it's good to have all sorts of expressions to communicate to people.
I think what doesn't help me too much is that, being a regional coordinator, we constantly talk about communication and being direct and having less, Jacque would call it sunny day in May, and then to go into that mindset, even when we're watching stuff and Page's suggested to me when I watch stuff, speed it up so it's even faster again to be able to get more in for a small amount of time, and to go from that mindset into something like that, it didn't work for me. But as I said, we speak about direct communication a lot, like efficient communication, so to speak, and those skills you could say or tools.
If it
helps to go ahead.
Oh, are you? You go first, actually.
No, I was just thinking that yeah, for me personally, it works best at a higher speed. I think because let's say you watch a video like Payman is saying, if you speed up the video just a little bit, you're forcing yourself to pay attention because your mind can't drift. You have to pay attention, or you're not going to catch anything at all. And I think that works. So I think it needs to be direct. It works easier for more people if you're direct to the point and more stuff is happening more quickly. That's how our brains are conditioned at the moment, I think. But I don't know that that's true for everyone.
Is it on Netflix? That movie? Yeah, it is on Netflix, right?
I think so. I don't know. Let me log in and look.
Interreflections? No, yeah. I don't think so. It is.
You got to go to their website, and it's like $5 to watch it.
Ah, okay.
That's what I heard. I'd like to see it. I'll probably see it soon.
It's sort of at the end of the day, it's sort of the same conclusions at a high level, with a lot less focus on of how to solve problems, I think.
Okay. There is another film out there, if you haven't seen it, that's worth seeing, and it's kind of an artistic take on Jacque Fresco and his work, called Future My Love, and that's actually available for free now.
Similar, yeah.
And it was done by a gal who's a documentary filmmaker, so it has clips of some acting but it also has interviews with Jacque and people actually around Venus and in Florida who know. And it's, yeah, you'll see a lot of things in it, that clips of Jacque speaking that you've never seen anywhere else. So she went there and did some filming. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, that one I wanted to. That's one I wanted to like clip, remove all the artistic, and just have, you know, Jacque going through his things. But I can imagine some people, you know, some people think like that approach.
Right.
You have to see, you know, what is
it
the
depends
audience.
on what background. Yeah, it depends on what the audience is, what your background is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start talking engineering in the art community, forget about it. You lost them immediately, right? So you have to have different modes of communication. I mean, marketing people know this. So should we.
Yeah.
It's just an expression of the person that made it, you know. It's art. It's how they see things and want to get through to people. And that's why people should be making content from all walks of life, you know. So it's very technical to very artistic, and then everything in between.
I agree, Clifton, definitely.
Yeah.
Like just different sides so that it encompasses like all different, like what did Jacque say? Like we can't observe one thing like in its completeness. You need like multiple observations of it to actually get it. I think that's very true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how was the movie, Peter? Can you tell us about how was your experience to watch this new movie?
Which one? The new PJ one?
Inter-reflections. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just discussing that before, and Stefan mentioned it as well. And Stefan was correct from my understanding. It's very artistic. So a lot of the camera shots were very slow, or some of them were. To me, it wasn't beneficial to me, put it that way. I watched it, and it was to the point that I even said to my partner, I have to watch this just to see if it does improve or I do get something out of it. But for me, it was something I had to really force myself to watch. Which generally, if I thought, like, if I didn't pay for it, or if it wasn't from PJ, I probably wouldn't have gone through the whole lot.
Was there any connection to the material, like human nature, or they explain money?
Yeah,
or
they had a couple of like scientists that were like interviewing, so to speak, like, you know what I mean, like actor scientists, and they're talking about our society today and different pieces in that, and those were reasonably beneficial, but yeah, it just wasn't enough content. It may have worked for other people, it may work really well for artistic people, and that it wasn't suitable for what I'm used to seeing, unfortunately.
Okay.
So it was a creative way of moving the movie to the future, and then talking to historians and scientists, then describing our world. It's an interesting way to look at it.
Okay.
Because it's a different twist. It's a different twist. The presentation in and of itself focused a lot on the music and the presentation and the colors and so on. And that a lot of effort was put into that, and a lot of time was dedicated to that, which may lend somebody of your mind to become how do you call it, impatient. And then but that very element may actually stimulate someone else. So I mean, I think it's very good to have different ways of describing the same issues and problems and visions, because that's what it's about. To the normal person, is a vision, right?
Yeah, it's, you know, different levels. So if a person knows very little, then you can't, you know, say adapt to my level. And this is probably more appropriate for a person that is new to the subject, but I have to listen to it and see. Okay, so Caden, I have to ask you this. So I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. You said 85% you agree with. Now I have to know, like, is there something in particular that you feel isn't, you don't connect with it, or some particular area where you feel is, that you would like to get clarified?
Just like with everything, you don't want to put like 110% into one thing. You know what I mean? Because I believe that humans are have errors. So I don't want to be like, oh, I believe in this 110%.
Yeah.
Let
me just say one thing regarding that. Or first off, I want to ask the new person, are you there? Vutatus, are you there?
Vutautas?
Yeah, there's one more person in the...
I see.
Hi there, can you say something? I need you, you have to talk if you're gonna be in the session. Okay. Oh, I have to throw you out if you are not able to talk with us or share your video.
No microphone. He says he's typing here.
Do you have a video camera so we can see you at least? Okay, I'm sorry, we can't have, until next time, please get a microphone. Okay, hope to see you next time. All right. So I just want to, regarding what you're saying, Kaden, that is a very healthy way of looking at it. I'm very happy that you said that. People that come in to this with high enthusiasm and just say, I love it all. I personally don't like that, because there is so much to learn, and just to accept it by saying I watched one video, I feel is very dangerous, because you can package everything to sound great for 1 hour. So I'm very happy that you said that. Don't go into things because, it sounds
I've been
great.
wrong before, so
yeah.
I've been burned before, so
Yeah.
I'm like, nah.
No, it's great. It's a great attitude. Even if it sounds great, and for me as well, I'm always thinking, I wonder what the next thing will be that goes beyond it. I can't
Absolutely.
imagine it, but I hope if it comes that I'm able to, move.
Exactly. I don't want to limit it. I don't want to put barriers on it. I don't want to be like, if it does grow or evolve or whatever it may be, I don't want to be stuck and stagnant in that, oh, but it was like this before. It's like that's the same mindset that the world has right now. So why would yeah.
So what is keeping you, now come on, give it to me. Is there anything particular you feel is not clear?
Mainly it was the members of Venus, like how close knit is everyone, how organized is everyone. It wasn't so much like, oh, the idea of Venus Project, that's what throws me off. I think it's a great idea. I wanted to meet the people involved.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how everyone's working together to get this moving.
Yeah.
So that was like my 85%, but
Okay, great. So
everyone seems cool, by the way.
Yeah, everybody is cool. We have our ups and downs with people. Right. Usually people that, people come and go like any organization. Absolutely. And what happens, what I feel is that when we project too much into it, like this is supposed to occur, or why isn't this working? Those are the people that usually leave because they want something physical right now.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, it's a process, and we're not there yet. It's the same with new ideas. You can't just say, here it is. Why don't people just accept it? The camera is here, or the television. It takes time for people to become educated, and they have to have a need for it. And so it's a slow process, but I see it as we are having progress.
It's growth for sure.
Yeah, it is. And my attitude is, people say, if you build the first city, why don't you build the first city? I think the same person that says that, even if you build the first city, they will say, where's the second city? Where's the third city? You know, they are not, there is no limit to that kind of attitude. You know, why don't you do this and that? You know, yeah, we can't at this time. And we will have the first city, maybe, and then we will have the same complaints. You know, why don't you do more? So we're going on. I view it as progress. A lot of people don't. So that's the way it is at this time. So does anybody else have anything else? Emma, have you been thinking about anything regarding it that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, well, actually, I have.
Great.
Recently, I read a book. I read lots of books, but this book was particularly interesting. And it's more like a open question for all of you. Have you ever heard of Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I read his book, 12 Rules to Avoid Chaos, I think it's called in English. And he says that, well, it's good for people and humans to have rules, and he's like pro hierarchy. And I was just thinking, what do you think if like Jordan Peterson and Jacque Fresco would sit in a room together and talk? What they would say to each other, and like, because I can agree that we as humans, we like we need some sort of rules to adjust to feel well.
By rules, do you mean reference points?
Well, maybe. It depends on like in what situation I think we're talking about. But what do you think that Fresco would say about his book and his arguments and such?
It's difficult to talk about the book because I haven't read it. But let's just talk about rules.
Yeah.
You know, it can. First off, let's say this. You never had a free society. You have had many societies that use that word and they toss it around and say, you know, you're free. Freedom without, for example, the ability to do things, then you just have a word in your pocket. You know, if you live in America and they say you're free and you say, great, can I go to Harvard University? They say, no, you can't do that. Can I drive the way I would like to? No, you can't do that. So the word to us, it doesn't mean anything. What means anything is the physical. You know, what can I do? What does society allow me to do? And you will have the same in a resource-based economy. You won't have people using the word freedom because it doesn't mean anything. They will just say, you have the capacity, we have the ability to do these things at this time. These options are open for you. If you want to expand on those options, you have to solve these problems, or society has to solve them. Then new areas will open up for you. So it isn't a society free from rules. The difference is that the rules of today are put there by a society that is bringing their personal culture, their personal history, their own personal interpretations of what is good, what is bad. The difference in a resource-based economy is that it isn't a person's view of how life should be. It is their findings that determines what kind of world we have. Okay, let me try to explain that. In a world where water, seawater, can be turned into drinkable water, then there is no more rules regarding that. if you have such an abundance that you can, nobody cares because there is so much of it, then you don't have any regulations regarding it. In areas where there are restrictions, they are not put there by me or somebody else. They just say, these are the restrictions. These restrictions are used for these areas because society is going towards this goal at this time. Whatever that goal is has to do with that particular time in society. But it isn't a person sitting there and saying, I would like to go in this direction. These are the findings that the whole world have dug out, and they determine that this is the most appropriate way for this time. So the rules are no longer from culture or from particular people or looking at history to say, this is the way to behave. So you have rules, but they're quite different from what we're used to. And that's what I think Jacque would try to educate him about, that whatever we feel is appropriate at this time comes from a very long time in the past. And we replicate that behavior. Jacque used to talk about there's nothing wrong with homosexuality, a man and a woman and a woman, or a person that never wants to be with somebody else. They just want to do their own life by themselves. There's nothing wrong with these people. That's the way they have been brought up. But culture says, fit into this mold. And they force people into it and say, these are the rules. And at that time, those rules become painful to a person that says, I don't want to be like that. They don't, and then rules, just to have rules is not clear. What are the circumstances to just have rules? It can be very painful for people to have rules, but also it can make a society function. So it depends on the circumstances. But I would say be careful when somebody says, the 7 wisdoms of life or the 12 rules to guide your life to become happy. What are the circumstances? Those are the things you have to look into. If you take the same rules and go back in history and say, hey, I'm going to use my 12 rules. And they say, yeah, we're going to chop off your head if you behave in that way.
The rules will be depends on our findings.
Yeah.
Well, I can say that Jacque mentions most of the time that the only rules or laws we should follow should be the natural laws. Everything else that does not apply to natural laws is just limiting some people, benefit for others, like Pechman comment.
Can you give an example of natural law?
The carrying capacity of the earth.
Wait, your microphone, David.
We all fall because gravity exists.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah.
Yes, but in regardless to rules, we can say that, for example, in the future we can measure the carrying capacity of the earth, and if you want to have a children, you will see if that carrying capacity can support another child. So you, as a person, educated person, will decide if you have a child or not without anyone impose that on you.
It is somehow, to clarify it, it's always imposed by the society that you live. Whatever society you have been brought up on, they have imposed ideas to you. You will have that in a resource-based economy as well. But the difference is, it isn't one person's opinion about something. They will just show you a graph, and you have been educated to understand that if we don't have enough food, then we will have these problems. So nobody is going to twist your arm to not have kids. You yourself have been educated to understand that it is not possible. If we're in a spaceship going through the universe and you say, you know, I want 10 kids, and it says can't support 10 kids. And it's important that the person is educated to make that correlation. Then you don't have to have anybody saying to them, hey, why are you having 10 kids? Because they have been brought up to understand those circumstances.
Well, if you haven't read the book, it's quite hard to follow my thought there maybe, but he talks about like 12 rules for yourself to like have a good life, and one of the rules is like stand tall, present yourself well, and be confident, like. And another rule is to like clean your room and stuff. So that's more for yourself, but this idea that he has that hierarchy is a good thing, like how would you argue against that we as humans need someone superior to us that like tell us what to do, because that would like make us feel good that our box is small, like to move in. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he means that we need hierarchy. This is my boss. This is okay.
Yeah.
So just to give a distinction, that whenever it's such a difficult thing to talk about, because the person is talking about today's society, and he's looking at the world and he says, these are my conclusions. And when we start to talk, we're talking about a fantasy land to him. And we say, we discard your rules. And he says, no, they are reality. And I understand that these are his experiences and his conclusions. So the only thing I will try to do is try to connect that whatever we think is relevant has to do with this particular time. I will try to show that if, for example, if you would go to a shrink and say, no, somebody brought you to a shrink and you say, why am I here? And they say, you have 25 wives and we think you have a problem. And the person says, I do. And they say, yes. And after talking for a while, they say, where are you from? He says, you know, I'm from Turkey. And they say, oh, it's normal there to have 25 wives. Oh, you're fine. You can go. Because the circumstances were different. So that's how I would try to approach it, to show them that, because we have been brought up to see these things as fixed, that this is the way. And I always think, you know, what are the circumstances? I remember my father was talking to me and he said he's always very proud if the country I come from originally, if they're successful. So he says, this girl is a mathematical genius. She's from Iran and she's going to go to, you know, she has gotten awards for, you know, her mathematical knowledge. And I said, yeah, that's great. I'm not so concerned with her knowledge. I want to know what she's going to do with that. But to just have that knowledge and go and work on nuclear bombs, well, you know, what are the circumstances of this person having great knowledge in a particular area? So this is the way I look at things when somebody mentions this is good, these are bad. I need more information regarding the circumstances. So did that clarify it?
So to summarize,
yeah.
To summarize what you were saying, Payman, there is that the guidance from the book are probably quite accurate given today's society, because they're reflecting people today you grew up here, you will be more happy. If somebody else tells you the rules you should live by, do this and do that, and all you have to do is comply, and then you'll feel like a good person, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If you would go to a shrink and they would say, give me 5 hours, I'm going to make you normal for today's society. And now you're normal. But society doesn't stay put, because suddenly they say it's no longer okay to tap women on the ass at work. And 1 million people have been brought up that way, and now they're fucked up. Or suddenly society says homosexuality is okay. So the normal person 10 years ago is no longer normal. So if you want to stay in with what is happening in the world, you have to change, to not get fixated with these are the rules I'm going to play with throughout my life because this person said so. Always look at the circumstances, what is happening, what culture am I in, and then you will see the problems with particular rules. Or look back in history and say, if I were living there and I had these rules, would it be appropriate to say what you think as a woman in a Muslim country 300 years ago and say, I have rights? They say, great, we have a special place for you. Suddenly it's inappropriate. And it's the same for us. You know, I work at a university. I don't go there and say, hey, why aren't you working on a resource-based economy? Because even though they're scientific and they're working with, you know, the frontier of science and technology, it is still inappropriate for me to preach just randomly to random people. So
why is it inappropriate?
Why it isn't appropriate? Because they didn't ask me to hold a lecture for them.
Yeah.
They were having their coffee, or they were holding a lecture about the future, but not my future. They were talking about their projections into the future. I was at a future event. Emma, did we go to that future event in Stockholm, or am I mistaken? No, it wasn't. No.
No, not me. No.
No, it was some couple of others from the group. And, you know, it's an event and it's about the future. But if I would suddenly stand up and talk about my projections of the future, it wasn't the future they were talking about. So I would be highly inappropriate saying, hey, I know the future, step aside, you know, walk up on the podium and grab the mic. So I feel Jacque wasn't as well behaved as I am, because it was too painful for him to just sit there. He would walk out. But I am more, this is my approach, that I don't bring it up. I see what are the circumstances? Is this appropriate? Will they give me an hour to talk? Because I can't talk just 3 minutes and get my points across.
Well,
you're too Swedish and polite, Peyman.
Yeah, exactly. I've been brought up Swedish and very polite. Don't rock the boat. You were going to say, David.
I would say that regard to hierarchy that Emma mentioned based on the book she read, I think hierarchy in a RBE will be totally irrelevant, because there is not going to be needed once we get there, you know, because actually it will make no sense, you know. We will not have bosses of any kind. We will not, because the society will be organized totally differently, of course, with a very different mindset that is not available now within this system.
It would be like the way I imagine it. Let's say a job comes up, just to simplify it, and I apply and David applies and David gets the job. I'm going to contact David and say, do you need assistance? because we are not fighting, because he will not get more benefits than me. He was interested in solving the problem, and I was also interested, but I will yield because he has more knowledge in the subject, and I am here to learn. And I will call him, say, do you need assistance? He says, I have 500 already, but I will contact you if we need you. Thank you. So that's the difference. There is no, it is a hierarchy, but it's regarding appropriateness to solving the task. And I don't look up to him. I just know he has more knowledge. And when he solves the problem, nobody applauds because he wasn't there for this. He was there because he chose to be there in that position. So that's the hierarchy part, I think, will be in the future. And there is no need, nobody gets awards. Nobody has their picture in the magazine or whatever, in the article. You won't ever see a picture of a person that did something because it is not relevant. It was the problem which was the effort of the society to solve, but not for somebody to say, I did it. Because they don't personally benefit for it. Society benefits from solving the problem.
I would like to add something, not related a little bit, but there's a movie in Netflix called Love, Death, and Robots. I don't know if anybody get to see it.
I've seen that.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
The best, for me, the best episode was the one about the robot. I think it was Blue Sima. I don't think if you remember it. That it was about a robot that started like a pool. In a pool, he was a cleaner. It was excellent. Do you
Really
see
good.
that he became almost a human being, and then in the final act, he went back to an original pool cleaner machine. You know, all the growth, all of the knowledge he got and everything, but then he decided to go back. In some way, I relate to, you know, it goes like, you don't need hierarchy, you know, you don't need, let's say, what do you do with the knowledge you have? Just like Pechman said, it's very important, you know.
It is.
I think again here we can reference the open source world here, because if you look at a project like Debian, it's pretty much, it's a pretty flat organization, and they tend to vote on, you know, who's going to be the maintainer, so to speak, who decide what's going and what goes in and what goes out, right? But I think it may tend in that direction and evolve from there even. But what, from my observations in that world of developing and building things, it's a meritocracy first and foremost. And if you're really good and you're really passionate and you push a lot, you'll go further than someone who's casually contributing, right? But everybody gets to contribute.
Incentive.
Yeah. Just regarding this evolution that you were mentioning, David, you know, when we say we're evolving, the question is, what is the goal? And the goal is always something that we have put up and we say we're evolving. So don't compare yourself to animals because they didn't set up a goal and say, you know, we're winning. So what is it all about? There is no, you know, we're evolving, because there is no goal in mind. The universe has not set up a goal for us to say, oh, you're getting closer, you're winning the game. So be careful with those, you know, when they say, you know, we're evolving. We can become more appropriate regarding what we are doing. And that's what this project is about becoming more appropriate, because we have new tools or very old tools that should have been implemented many years ago. Clifton, you wrote this. I can't pronounce it. Thank you. Could you please tell me what aspects of it you're thinking about?
Yeah, how you were talking about how you would concede to somebody because they have more knowledge than you in that scenario. It would just come down to the fact that people would be chosen or would volunteer to solve certain problems, and the people who would do that would be the ones who have a track record of being competent in that area or having the merit to do so. So people who are interested in this idea have called it a meritocracy because of that, or a competent democracy because it's based off of your competency in a given field. And it ties back to what we were saying about people have a right to their opinion. Well, in science, your opinion doesn't matter. You know, it's about what you know and your techniques and what kind of a track record you have. What is your education and what have you done to merit you being on this team or this person to solve the problem? So that's just one other way to describe it. Is it's not a democracy. It's not, you know, it's not communism, whatever. It's a meritocracy. It's based on your merit. And that's determined through the methods of science.
Yeah, you can use, you know, I don't like, you know, those words, whatever they mean, just like communism. Now that you explained it, it becomes so much clearer instead of me trying to think, what does Clifton mean by that? So I can't see any problems with what you have said. It feels like exactly what Jacque mentions with competent democracy.
Very nice concept.
Imagine a debate where you have to prove every point you make.
Yeah, it would be very painful. And even if you prove it, a nice joke will ruin it all. You know, oh, you know it all, or, you know, whatever, because that's the kind of society you live in. Because you can be a scientist that done a lot of work for 10 years, but you're not so good at speaking. And you try to, you know, tell your research, but you worked on for 10 years. And then somebody makes fun of your way of speaking. And then suddenly nothing is relevant anymore because people have been brought up in that way. But you have to know what you're dealing with. So whenever I speak to people, I don't sit here and say, you know, they're going to get it the way exactly as I meant it. And I don't think Jacque thought that as well, you know, exactly, because I don't have his experience. I'm putting it together still after 10 years and I'm fixing it. And therefore I can't expect a person that I'm talking to just go along with it. Yes.
Okay. Does it make sense the following I want to say? That most people or many people could be interested in the Venus Project proposal because they have this feeling or sense of searching for something new, or trying to find answers, and the Venus Project, let's say, fits in those answers or that search they're looking for. Could that make sense?
Yeah, it could, but when people are searching, they have not been brought up. It is not enough to search. You have to have this attitude. I want to solve problems. That's the right attitude. Because if you're just searching, that means that whatever sounds good, you're going to go for it. And usually what sounds good is that which is simple. You know, be kind and you will have a kind world. It's up to you. You will be the change. So you do your work and everything's going to be fine. But this project, people that stay here are the persons that have the attitude of, you know, I'm not satisfied. Socialism, great, but I'm not satisfied. I'm going to look into this because it seems that they're tackling more problems. Those people stay because they see the limitations of other systems and say, even if you had that, you will probably, because they have been educated, it's very difficult for a person that hasn't been exposed to these ideas to sit and reach these conclusions. I can't imagine I would be able to do it, you know, just by sitting and reaching all of these conclusions, because Jacque had a great background where the methods of science was obvious in his day-to-day life. He had an example when he was a kid. He used to make airplanes and boats, and he wanted to know how much drag there is on a boat when he was a young kid, because the more the water pulls on the boat, the more friction. So he put it in a tub, and he created, you know, so the water is constantly moving, and he put color to see how much is the water pulling on the boat. So he was brought up to always look for a reference regarding what he's talking about. But I wasn't brought up that way. So it took a very long time, not by doing the work, but listening to him and connecting it. But he was brought up with that kind of looking for reference. So that's what the essence of the Venus Project is, the scientific work that needs to be done. So to him, that became clarified. So to your answer, not just looking for something new, but wants to solve problems. They're never satisfied. A doctor that says, I want to see a better society, doesn't work in a hospital. He goes out and tries to say, I need to change society so people don't come to the hospital. That's what a sane shrink would be. He wouldn't work with individuals. He would be trying to change society so that he would never have people coming to him. And then he would stumble upon other things, say, no, not enough, not enough, and then eventually maybe come here and maybe understands what this is about.
But that's unlikely in today's world, because then he'll lose his job.
Exactly. He's not reinforced. That is we had a shrink that came. I was working for some company, and we had a great shrink that came there. He was very charismatic, very funny, and he seemed to know what he was doing. And he called himself the stress doctor. And at the end of the session, he says, does anybody have questions? And I asked him, you know, how would you change society to help people? And he was ashamed of it. He said it. He said, please don't quote me on this. He was ashamed to, you know, tackle society. But he said that I think basic income would help a lot of people. But that isn't his reinforcer. That can take away from him. So when he's on TV next time, they say, oh, are you advocating this? Are you a communist? So he doesn't want to touch those areas, because he's a successful person. He's on TV, he's getting invited to these companies, and he's helping individuals, but he doesn't touch society.
Okay. I think that's probably true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That realize they could have a bigger impact for others, but it's in their own self-interest to manage what you say. I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah, please continue.
Imagine going on LinkedIn and typing up a lot of this stuff. It's not going to get you any new jobs, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, I had a rule in the beginning. It's been 2 hours now. You see, Kaden, you see 2 hours? You know.
I was going to say something, but it was good discussion.
Yeah. So I mentioned we don't want to saturate too much. So let's save a little bit for 2 weeks or something. You were going to say anything, David?
Yeah, we can go on and on because it was really good, the answer, especially the last one. Yes, I'm reinforcing many things and trying to make a better reference about TVP and in the special questions, and especially the circumstances within. It's very important. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna post a new event 2 weeks from now, and I'm gonna post a new video. And if you have time to look at that, do it, or else we'll see each other in 2 weeks, hopefully.
It's nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, nice to meet
Thank you
you
for
as well.
today.
Nice to meet you too, Kaden.
The same all to all of you. Bye bye. Bye
Bye bye,
bye.
guys.
Bye.